Welcome to the Paisans podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sark. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. You're with the Paisans, you're with family.
The first time it came about, kind of in a weird sort of twist, it actually was triggered by me getting hit in the foot with a softball when I was playing softball. I got hit in the foot with pitching, and someone hit the ball, hit me hit the foot. No problem, I was fine. And then 2 days later, I was like, oh, wow, my ankle's kind of stiff. I was like, it must have been from when I got hit. I just kind of assumed, and then it didn't go away, so I went to urgent care. They didn't know what it was at the time. They just gave me like some sort of, I don't know, anti-inflammatory or something.
Yep.
It went away because I was taking that, they gave me like a week's prescription or something.
Mm-hmm.
It went away. I was like, all right, well, this is good. And then it came right back because, I was definitely unaware. And then that's when they're like, all right, well, we need to do some blood work on you. So they did blood work, and they saw that my uric acid levels were really high. So they determined it was gout.
Wow.
And it's really hard to tell what foods are really bad for this and what aren't. So they give you kind of the baselines, like raised steak, shellfish, or like bacon apparently is really bad, which is weird because, there are some of these foods have other benefits. So it
Sure.
gets very tricky, but it's a lot of meat that's bad, certain vegetables,
Do you eat an abundance of meat and bacon, Dave?
No, not really.
No.
I mean,
Right.
I eat meat, I would say, probably, aside from breakfast most of the time, like most of my meals have some sort of protein or meat component in it.
They should.
Yeah, right.
That's
exactly.
healthy.
So, right. That's the tricky part, because I think for my gout, the perfect or the better diet would be a vegetarian diet, but I'm going to really struggle with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's even sustainable, honestly. I just don't understand how people who are vegetarian or vegan get protein. It just doesn't make sense to me. And there's like plant-based proteins or whatever. I don't know. It's just tough. I just try to eat like chicken. So I don't eat a lot of beef. I don't eat a lot of steak. I barely touch bacon anymore. I basically eat chicken and turkey, like ground turkey, essentially. Occasionally we'll throw some other stuff in there just to so we're not eating the same thing. And you should be okay to eat these things once in a while. That's the thing. You should be able to eat those things once in a while. But I don't know.
But you can't say, oh, the day that I got gout, I realized the day before I had a steak.
Right.
Or like impossible. 2 days before I had a steak. Like, there's no correlation to you eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I'm biased, but I would feel free to ask my wife, because she's not going to try and put you into some program or anything like that, Dave. She will ask you how much you want to know or how deep you want to go. She can help you get certain testing that can help her understand if you have deficiencies in certain vitamins, which might indicate issues with pituitary gland or, other glands that have effects. A lot of times these things are because, one thing happens and then that kicks off another thing, which, kicks off something else. And then the result is something isn't processing your purines or whatever the purines do in some way. And now, boom, now you're starting to get gout. It's you know what I'm saying? It's rarely a straight line. I shouldn't say rarely, but sometimes it isn't a straight line.
It's not like a food allergy where you're avoiding the food because you're going to have a direct reaction from it. It's almost like not eating the food is just avoidance. It's not actually addressing the problem. And it's also hard to sustain not eating anything but vegetables.
I mean,
if you're not used to that.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, I was kind of complaining to Danielle, and I was just like, I'm so sick. I'm just really sick of this. It just, they put me on medication. It was working for a long time, and I feel like now it's not working. It's also, what if I miss a day, right? It's a daily pill that I have to take. So what if I miss a day? And then it's that has happened, obviously. I'm human. I forget sometimes. But then I just feel like you've missed that day, and it's you let this layer of protection down, and then it's just they slip in, they pass your guard. So, I don't know. I mean, that could have even happened this week too, where I just forgot one day and then, maybe had something and then it just triggered, I don't know. It could also be being active. I played softball this week for the first time the season, but I mean, that was also Monday. So I don't know if it would be today all of a sudden, if that was the case. but I feel like it's usually stuff that takes a couple days to. So it's like if I have a bad
Yeah.
eating day, 3 days ago, it's like then a couple days later I might have something. But again, you can't really pinpoint it.
Did the doctor ever address you getting hit in the or in the ankle with the ball and the cord?
I basically at that point so I went to an urgent care, so I didn't really because I didn't have like a primary at that point. They didn't know, So I did mention it to I think my current primary. And I think she was the one who told me that can be triggered by an injury. So, like, say for example, you roll your ankle. Like, say you're jogging, you roll your ankle.
Yeah.
The next day, you might be, or a couple days later, you might be fine. But then a couple days later, all of a sudden, it's like, wow, it really hurts. Like, what's going on? And it's like, I guess because the blood rushes to that area. I'm not 100% sure why.
Wow.
And that can trigger. So she was the one who told me that if you have if you tweak yourself or you hurt yourself, that can actually trigger a gout.
And you're predisposed to gout in some way.
Well, right. Yes. Yeah. I take this medicine called allopurinol. I take that daily, which ironically, when the doctor prescribed it, she's like, one of the side effects is gout. Okay. So it's like a medication to treat gout, but one of the side effects is also gout. So I remember the first time I took it, I ended up getting gout, like a gout flare up, like a week later. It's like, the gout is gone, Dave, but bad news, you now have AIDS.
I think I just saw a sketch from might have been Cat Williams, I think, and the joke was like, "You tired of having hangnails?" And then, like, the treatment is like, pretty much all your limbs fall off. You'll never like get a hard on again. And it's like, but you'll never have to deal with hangnails again. It's like, well, that's how it feels. You know what I mean?
If you ever listen to those commercials, which we're one of 2 countries that allows you to have commercials for medications or whatever, right? Those crazy like commercials where you see those people dancing in the street and shit. It's just like, if you listen to those commercials and listen to the side effects, it's insane. I don't even know why anyone would ever want to take that stuff. It's like side effects include death. It's just like why would you want to take that? Yeah, side effects include an excruciating, slow, painful death of 6 months.
People are so like, yeah, but can I lose weight now, like in time for my wedding?
It's like, but in those 6 months, how skinny will I get?
So interesting. So allopurinol. So I'm looking up online. Medicine used to lower levels of uric acid in your blood. If you produce too much uric acid or your kidneys do not filter enough out, it can build up and cause tiny, sharp crystals form around your joints, which causes. So Dave, have they tested your kidneys? Like, is there any concern about your kidney function?
But that is something the doctor has mentioned in terms of why she wanted to put me on allopurinol. She was like, I'm just worried about your kidney damage, basically kind of dealing with gout. So she was like, that's why, because I remember at the time I was a little hesitant. I didn't really want to take a medication because I had gone to a doctor a couple years earlier, a different doctor. His view on it, I was also maybe like 30 at that point, or like about to turn 30. So his view on it was, you're too young to be taking a pill every day, so I don't want to put you on anything. That was basically what he told me. I forget what the solution was. I think I just had this. I had this other medication that I used only for when I had like a flare up. It's a medication called colchicine. It's some sort of anti-inflammatory. So I think that's what it was for a while. But then when I went to this new doctor and I was explaining to her, so this was a couple years after that, explaining the situation. And she was the one who was kind of like, you need to be on this because I'm worried about your kidneys. So I think that's part of what I need to do here. I think I need to overdue for blood work. So I want to get that. I mean, right now it's basically going to tell me my uric acid levels are through the roof, probably, I'm sure. I don't know what else it's going to tell me. I guess that's the other.
Well, if you're going to go in for blood work, you can ask Jen and she can tell you the specific tests that like she might recommend you get. And you may have to pay extra for some of them. Yeah. But she'll tell you why she would want to see that. Yeah. And like, just because it might really help Dave. Like if I'm reading, just the more I'm reading here, the more concerned I'm getting for you. And it's just is like, we should understand what's going on, like where this is originating from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess, kidney function. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but I guess that's something to look into.
This Jen lives to do this stuff. Like she's like detective. Like this is her Joker, and she's the Batman. You know what I mean? Like she lives to hunt this stuff down. So,
Yeah.
she just like a detective
It's
when it
worth
comes
it,
to this
Dave.
stuff.
Yeah.
Where did Jen learn about this stuff?
So I want to be careful. I don't want to say the name of the places and misstate them, but there's a couple of places where she went. One is a certification in functional medicine.
Okay.
And then there's like another level certification that she got too, or maybe that was the second level certification. And basically it just gives her the ability to like, she can assign and read blood work. She's allowed to read your blood work, which is not something like anybody can do. But she can't write prescriptions or anything like that,
Right.
you know,
Because she's not,
quite frankly, she doesn't want to.
doctor, right? She's just like
she's not a doctor. She's not a nurse. She's not a medical practitioner.
Yeah.
That's not what she is.
Right.
She's also not a nutritionist, but what she does though is she understands like the different chemical compositions in the body and how the body processes your food and how those chemicals and like the function of each organ, so that when you have an outcome like high uric acid, she wants to investigate what's the source, what's the cause of that. And generally speaking, what we do here is we treat the outcome. We don't treat the source. And that's large. Right. There's a number of reasons for that. We could have an entire episode on that. Okay. But simply saying like that's, and speaking on behalf of doctors, I would say like they don't have the bandwidth to do the level of depth that Jen does with her clients. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's she can add value by really drilling into certain things. And then very often what she can do is say, okay, here's what you should ask your doctor, this and this and this, and you should ask about this. And if not this, then what about that? And in certain cases, I will say she's had certain cases where certain people are like, no, actually I want my doctor to talk to you. And the doctor's like happy to talk to her. And they think they're like, this is great sense. This is a great supplement to what we have to do. So much of what we have to help people with. If they were coming to somebody like you, they would not have to come to a doctor, Yeah. And then others are a little bit like, you and your like,
voodoo,
snake oil medicine. Yeah, kind of, a little bit. But I will say, Jen said to me a couple of times, she's like, I started talking to him and he was clearly sort of irritated that I was asking some questions at first. But once we started talking, he started to realize I actually knew what the hell I was talking about. And then his attitude changed, his tone with me changed. And then actually we had a good conversation. I was like, okay. So, anyway.
Well, and Jen is not challenging them. She's looking for a way to supplement. She's trying to plug in with what she's doing. She's not trying to question them or derail them.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
she's not like, oh, but isn't this such and such?
Right. Probably once they realize the nature of the questions, because it's like, they don't like to get a lot of questions.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't.
I'm actually a little surprised that she has mostly good relationships, only because I feel like these doctors could have some ego, and even if she's not a threat, be like, who is this person without a degree telling me, like, trying to be in my lane? I'm surprised she doesn't have more of that.
Yeah.
She's, like I said, there have been a couple instances where she gets that vibe, but most of the time when she talks to those people, once they realize she actually knows what she's talking about, and part of it, Dave, to your point, is they realize she's not a threat.
Yeah.
I mean, like any more than a physician's assistant is a threat, and she's not a threat to physician's assistants either. Physician's assistants love her, like the nurses and physician's assistants who work with patients directly love her because they're like, a lot of the people we work with, they really should be working with you, and then they'll never get to us. We should be dealing with broken arms and like cancer and, the serious stuff. And instead they deal with a lot of people coming in and they're like, I have chronic, heartburn. I have, you could find, I mean, Dave, I'm sure you'd agree if you could figure out a way to control your diet that was manageable, that was sustainable.
Yeah.
And that meant you didn't have to take, medication anymore. You'd be thrilled with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I should reach out to her. I feel like
You know.
we talked about this once before, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then I never did. But I really should, because
Hmm.
honestly, today I was like, I felt like I hit a moment where I was just like, this has to stop. And I was like, this is just so ridiculous. Like, almost to the point where it's like, I don't know if everyone understands how painful it is. I sometimes think I tell people
Yeah.
this, and they're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, why can't you do anything? And it's just like, I literally can't. I'm debilitated because of this thing, and I just don't think people think I'm like making it up or something. No one says anything to your face in those instances, but you can just kind of tell when you're talking to people. Like they're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, right, okay, you can't move.
All right.
You can't move at all, right? Oh, okay, yeah, just making sure. It's like you could just like get a vibe. You're like, I feel like you think I'm lying, or like, you don't understand how.
Yeah, or you have like no tolerance for pain at all. You know,
Right.
no threshold. Yeah.
Oh,
of course.
really? It's bad, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it's that bad.
You look fine to me, but okay.
Yeah, like, oh, you look okay though, and it's like, yeah, I understand. It's like physically, like my face is not going to look any different from this. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh my god.
my skin's not going to turn
Dave,
yellow.
your facial features are fine. What's the problem?
Your facial features. Yeah.
So-
I know what you mean, Dave. I wonder sometimes if I get that too. Every time, like anytime I'm sick and like, or if I'm really, which I'm not that sick all that often.
Right.
But anytime I'm just like, I'm just really out, like I need to take a break, which doesn't happen often. I just feel like everybody is just like, why are you wimping out? You know, basically. Like, just like, oh man, you don't know my pain.
My wife she never gets sick. She never gets sick. When we all had COVID, she didn't test positive for COVID. It's just absolutely amazing.
Wow.
One time that I can remember, she got the flu. One time.
Wow.
And she was running a fever. And I get the flu like every year. So running a fever, 102, and I'm whining in bed, and like I'm whining, walking around the house, and she's looking at me like, you're such a wimp. And then when she had the fever, she was like, I think I'm going to die. I'm like, that's what a fever feels like. She's like, no, seriously though, I think I'm going to die from this.
Oh man, oh poor thing.
Now you know what it feels like.
No sympathy. Oh man.
It's like, and the older you get, the worse it is with that stuff. too,
That's
right?
a
It's
fact.
like,
That's a fact.
you know,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
not resilient
Dave,
anymore.
what you're sharing reminds me of what I felt, a couple of years ago before I went and had all my procedures done. Like I that's the type of thing I never imagined that I would have done to myself. Like, so what we talked about here in the catheter and all that stuff. I never thought I would be able to get to myself. And I kept telling myself when I had to go in and have the camera and everything, I just kept saying, you got to remind yourself, like, and actually, here was the thing. I was reminded constantly. So I was actually like, I can't wait to go. I cannot wait to go. And I was going in, I'm walking into the place. I'm like, this is going to suck, but I really need to have this done because the discomfort became such a part of my life. It just became overwhelming. And Dave, I had the same thing. I was like, I am too young for this. This is ridiculous. So, like I said, the pain got bad enough. It's like your tooth hurts. You don't want to get drilled. Your tooth hurts. You don't want to get drilled. You get at your point where all of a sudden you're like, dude, rip this thing out. Rip 100%. It out. So, I hope, Dave, it's
well, it was funny.
Better.
When I was talking to Danielle before, and I was like really frustrated. She was like, well, what do you want to do? Cut off your foot? I was like, honestly, yes. I was like, I kind of do right now. I was like, in all seriousness, I would not mind if my foot was just gone. Like, because then I wouldn't be feeling this pain. And I'm like,
you really do.
I'm like,
that.
I'm like being facetious, but I'm also like, you know what? If it gets rid of the pain, maybe I'll do it. I can wear a prosthetic foot. It's like, I wonder how you fit those things. It's like,
who's laughing now? Cutting it off.
By the way, Dave, different topic, totally changing the subject here, but I have been meaning to ask you. This is what we were talking about right when you got on. When we go to Italy, would you recommend that I bring euros?
Oh, yeah. You need euros. When are you going again?
Sunday night.
They haven't been to the airport.
I bet they
feel
have.
like
currency, yeah.
I bet they have them at the bank. Like, in fact.
So, wait, you're leaving this Sunday? As in 3 days from now?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember. We got ours through the bank. Now, of course,
you had to mail it, right? Didn't they mail it to you? That's what they did for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't remember because the bank we went to is literally around the corner from my house. So I feel like we actually went and picked it up, but
Oh, maybe.
I want to say Chase was able to get it to us like the next day when we went in there.
Okay.
But I also think their conversion rate is a little higher, if that makes sense. I don't know what the airport does, but I mean, I was tracking it and I was trying to line up. So I was like trying to get it at the best time for conversion.
Yeah.
And then I thought we did. And then I looked at the receipt and I was like, I feel like they added like 10 to 15% on this. Which they probably do. And I was like, all right, well,
Sure
yeah, I
they
guess
do.
that makes sense because it's a business, right? So I'm assuming you will run into the same issue. I don't know what the airport does. I'm sure they have something too, where they have some sort of money that they make off
They
it,
do, but it's not
yeah.
cheap. That's what I did on the way out to Greece, and it was not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I paid,
And that's
I paid
truly
huge.
last minute too, if you're doing it in the airport, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a huge service fee. I'm a little nervous, but I just think that's normal. Like, I don't travel great. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know,
Well, there's like
but
anxiety
I'm
that
sure.
you feel. That's excitement too, on top of nerves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like, you had a great time there, right, Dave? Like,
Oh yeah, I love Rome was awesome. I mean, I was kind of expecting honestly that I was going to hate it, but it was
Really?
one of my favorite parts of our trip, honestly, because it was
really?
just like so much history. I mean, the Colosseum is awesome. We did a long tour of the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, and then I like the field or something across. I forget what it's called. That was really cool. Rome was just really cool. There's a lot of good food, they actually have good street food, which was interesting. I didn't expect that. So the one thing I was worried about were, I don't know if we have to blur this out, but the gypsies and stuff that are over there,
Yeah.
they're not bad though. I mean, it's
No.
just like being in New York City. It's not any different than what you deal with in New York City in terms of just like people coming up to you, but they will try to like trick you and get you to buy things. So like nothing is, I guess, 100% safe, but I also don't think it's as bad as people make it seem to be.
Okay.
But everything's
Right, just
you guys are
watch
going
your
to walk.
shit, man. That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Watch
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll walk everywhere, I'm assuming. So that'll, it's a good walking city.
Good. Good. Well, we're trying not to dress too much like total tourists. So we're each actually bringing like we're going to try not to wear like, shorts and t-shirts and fanny packs.
No
Yeah,
jet
the shorts
sets.
are kind of a giveaway. I feel like Europeans wear shorts.
Yeah, exactly. But the weather's supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be like 70 degrees.
Oh, that's awesome.
It
was hot when I was there. It was really hot. It was like 100 degrees hot.
Shorts make more sense when it's that hot.
Yeah.
But this is going to be, and I just ordered, we were talking about that place, True Classics. Well, I ordered jeans from there and I also ordered chinos. They have chinos, dude, that I swear they've become like, they're like yoga pants for men. They're not like cotton pants anymore. They're more like stretch.
Yeah.
They look like cotton pants. I mean, they have a true look like a chino, but you put it on and like, these are pajama pants. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They're so ridiculously comfortable.
So comfortable. I have joggers like that are.
Do you?
Yeah. It looks like you're wearing slacks, like,
Exactly.
skinny
So
slacks.
I ordered a few. I ordered another pack of that. So I should have like 4 or 5 of those plus my jeans now. So we're going to try and look a little classique.
Maybe you need to have like one touristy outfit that you can both wear on your last day.
As touristy as possible. Well, you know what? My drive back, we have to drive back for our flight from where we are up in Tuscany down to Rome, to fly out and return the car on our last day. So that day I'll probably get up and throw on a hoodie and a good old fashioned baseball cap and drive back to Rome and drop off the car and wear my American clothes back to America,
Fuck you guys. I'm really an American.
Yeah, I fooled you. I doubt that.
Wearing like a Godfather t-shirt.
Well, I keep thinking about our one of previous conversations we had where we were just talking about where the languages originate from and stuff. And the fact of the matter is there's just no affiliation anymore with like American Italians. Like my understanding is most Italians in Italy, like they don't look at any Americans who see ourselves as Italian and think of them as Italian in any way.
No. Yeah, they definitely don't.
Yeah. No. The language is different, as we said. So,
yes.
When I was over there,
Don't ask for gabagool.
I had this, I guess, kind of fantasy because we were in Naples, which is where, our dad's grandparents, I guess, are from, right? So I just had this fantasy in my head that I was going to like bump into someone in Naples. And I was going to like, somehow I was going to find out their last name was Ragazzo. And I was going to be like, oh my God, we're long lost like cousins. And then I literally and I knew Naples was not a very nice city. It's actually really, it's not nice at all, actually. So I knew that, but I still like kind of had this fantasy in my head that I was like going to, bump into a long lost relative. And when I'm there, I was literally in Naples for like an hour and I almost got into a fight with some guy. Like it was like, it's just like, it was just ridiculous.
Not what you expected.
Yeah, not at all. And I was just, I was telling Danielle, I was like, I'm so pissed that our family's from here. I was like, these people are fucking assholes. Like I was like going on. I was like, if our ancestors are truly from here, they are like true assholes. I guarantee it. Like they are not nice people. I was like, because I was like, this guy just like started picking a fight with me. He accused me of cutting a line for food. And I literally was standing there the whole time. I actually saw people behind me going in front of me because I just didn't understand how the system worked. So actually other people actually cut in front of me. And I was like, all right, I didn't care because I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. So I was just like standing there waiting. And this guy was like, sir, you were not here. He's an Italian guy. He's like, you were not here before. I was like, I've been standing here the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, no, you cut the line. I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, I've been standing here the whole time. I again, have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, you're disrespecting the line. That's some, he's like, I can't believe it. I was like, man,
wow.
What are you talking about? I was like, I actually wasn't sure if he was even talking to me. Like, that's how. And then like he was like, this, blah, blah, blah. He's like screaming at me, and I was just like, I don't know what to tell you. I just like stood there, I just like turned around, and then of course like I get my food, I drop part of the food because of like I was a little flustered after that, and the guy behind the counter, he was like, I was like, hey man, like, is there any way I could just get like another rice ball? That's because I dropped a rice ball. I was like, is there any way I could just do that? And he was like, no. He's like, no, I saw you drop it. He's like, you dropped it. So that's what you. I was just like,
gosh.
I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I was like, thanks for nothing. That's where I was just like, I was fuming after that.
Oh my God. You just turn around the entire line. They're just shaking their heads looking at you.
They were like, this guy's not a Ragazzo. There's no way.
Were you dressed like a tourist, Dave?
I probably was, honestly. Yeah, probably.
Did you have a Jets hat on?
Honestly, I might have. Very possible.
But I mean, generally, everybody spoke English.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in Greece, when we were there, everyone spoke English, right? Like that was, I think that was a little more obvious. In Italy, I would say most of the people in the hospitality field speak English, but I don't know if it's 100%. I feel like there were some people who were struggling with it. We ended up having to talk to some others, but honestly, my experiences in Italy, I'm just thinking of another one that I had where I was waiting for the bus. Pouring rain. We're standing in the pouring rain. We don't have an umbrella, so we're just getting soaked. Buses, 20 minutes late. Running on. This is the Amalfi Coast, so just like running on Amalfi Coast time, I guess. The bus shows up, opens the door. He asked for my ticket, and I was like, I don't have one. I thought I could get one on the bus, and he was like, nope, sorry. I was like, okay. Whoa. So we go back inside, go to the hotel, and I was like, hey, I was just waiting for the bus. They told me that I can't buy tickets there, so where do I get tickets? They're like, no, you get them on the bus. Like you buy them on the bus. I was like, okay, well,
flat out lied to you.
This guy just like straight up lied to me. Then like he just like I was telling my one buddy, he was like, and he was like, yeah, that's very typical European, probably smoking a cigarette, be like, I don't have time for this. Like I don't have time to get a ticket for you. Just blowing cigarette smoke in your face or something.
They're like, well, sir, were you wearing shorts?
Why don't you have chinos?
Right. So
they have these stretchy chinos, dude. They'll think you're Italian.
You're breaking my balls.
And in that instance, I told the guy at the hotel, I was like, so where do I get a ticket then? This bus driver just straight up refused to give me one. He was like, okay, I can get you one. I was just like, This whole time they could have just gave me one. I was like, I don't know. I was like, this is ridiculous.
That does not compute for us as like for anybody doing anything related to hospitality. It's like just does not compute. I don't get it. How could you say that to somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although we seem to be headed in that direction.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I guess it depends on where you are, but
more places I'm finding now, you go and there's like a kiosk to interact with. Or some of the times you get there and it's like, oh, you had to do this on like you have to do this on your phone, and then you just get here and receive a product. There's no like human to interact with at all.
And then there's a thing for tip, which I love.
Yeah.
You know, you use a kiosk and you're tipping the person that brings your coffee out.
Those things are so awkward too. Like you're like picking up a food order or something like that, and it's something that you don't typically tip for. And then they just like whip the thing around, and it's like in your face, and it's like the minimum, by the way, is like 20% now. It's like that's the minimum. So it's like for a pickup, they're like almost hoping that you give them 25 to 30%. You're just like, I don't even compute this.
It's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the tipping
it's
culture
ridiculous.
is a little out of hand in some cases.
I agree. I mean, I'm sorry, but you don't tip at the sub shop. You don't tip like you just don't tip everywhere you go. You just don't.
Right.
Those kiosks have now made it so that there's an expectation because all of these kiosks end with like the tip amount, you know, no thanks, and really
or
small.
If you're ordering it in advance, like on your phone, like Chipotle, you order it in advance, and before you're even done, it's like, do you want to tip them? And I'm like, I want to tip them when I see that, hey, my bowl, it came out with everything I wanted and it's really good.
Yeah.
But instead I feel like, no, now I'm held captive. Like, well, if I don't tip them, then they're going to be like, screw him. But if they're like, screw him regardless, what recourse do I have? If this is not a Chipotle that I come to all the time, not to make it about Chipotle specifically, but there's Chipotle around the corner from us here. And then there's another one that's like all the way down the road. It's like an easy 15-minute drive or whatever. The one right here by us, I don't know why, but it absolutely sucks. I mean, it's as if they just completely ignore what you put on the order form. When you fill out the app, it's just like they completely
give you whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, this is nothing everything that I ordered is wrong on this. It's like, this can't just be wrong. And it's got my name on it. It's got my name, the tag, and it says like, oh, chicken, double chicken bowl. And then you open it up and there's like half a bowl. There's barely any chicken in it. There's white rice, which I didn't ask for. There's no sauteed like onions and I asked for double. There's corn. It's swimming in sour cream. And I put like light sour cream, it's like, they're just like, F you. You're getting what I want you to get completely. And guess what? You've already tipped me, a-hole.
Right.
So, I'm just like, oh my God.
A measly 25%, you bastard.
Right. You just imagine that if you don't tip them, they're like, oh, how about this, this, and this, and this? Like, enjoy. You just imagine that. I mean, I'm sure that's not what's happening. Yeah, exactly. You ever see that movie Waiting with Ryan Reynolds?
No.
Yes.
Mike, have you ever seen it?
No.
Yeah, it's a very small, like low budget movie, but it's got to be what, Dave, 15 years old now?
Oh, it's 20.
Maybe
it's
20?
easily 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. They're waiters at it's like a Bennigan's Fridays type place.
I think it's Shenanigans.
It's called Shenanigans. That's right.
I think it's
but it's like that's not a real place as far as I know. It's got like a cast. Several of them you'll recognize actually.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's pretty damn funny. But there's a whole sequence where they play out parts of that movie are obviously meant for people who've waited tables, because if you've ever worked in a restaurant, there's all these jokes that are like, that's true. That really does happen in the restaurant. Like, yes, that happens. And there's this one woman comes in and she's like a nightmare customer who's insulting, hates the food. It's like the classic example of the person who's like, the last 5 times I've been here, you've screwed up my order. And it's like, well, why do you keep coming back? But okay. And then, of course, they decide that they bring her food to the back and they decide she's so bad that she deserves to get, extras. And it's just disgusting.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's just
well, that's what you imagine in these
that's
situations.
What you imagine.
All the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say regarding service, I went to Indianapolis last week and we stayed at JW Marriott. The place was huge. And they had a Starbucks in there. And they had a conference going on. They had the eclipse. So the place was mobbed and the Starbucks was mobbed. Starbucks, I mean, there could be nobody there. There'd still be a line somehow at the Starbucks. Man, they had such attitude. And usually Starbucks is like the sanctuary. Like they're asking you your name and then they write your name on the cup. And they were barely communicating and they're like putting the drinks out and mumbling something. And so inadvertently people were coming up and they were confused. And the staff was getting even more angry at the fact that people were confused as to what was what. So one of the days I went there with my boss and she winds up ordering something. I didn't get anything. And they put hers down. She had said like an iced coffee, very little cream. And they put out something that just looks like milk. Big glass with ice, you know, and a big cup with ice. And she says, excuse me, you know, is that mine? And the girl says, well, did we say it was yours? And she said, well, I didn't hear you. And the girl said, well, we have a system here. It's called listening for your name. And my boss is very non-confrontational. So she was just like shaking her head, but at a Starbucks, like, man, between that and the eclipse is like, maybe this is a sign of the end of the world.
Like we waited tables for, you know, some time together. I waited tables for a lot of years and it is easy to start to get bitter toward people because a lot of people do treat you crappy.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you know, every customer you get, like that's the first time they're seeing you, unless you know them, obviously. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Well, people you and I knew that. I mean, I feel like we weren't the type of people to snap at somebody completely innocent because we had a bad experience with somebody an hour ago.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe it's like, oh, you're picking a fight with the wrong person today. I'm in a bad mood and you're picking the fight, but never just on someone who's coming in trying to be nice to you and you're just like, you know, fuck off.
She ought to stop going to Starbucks. They will feel that. Feel my wrath economically.
Economically.
You know, it's like, listen, Starbucks has just lost one customer.